Alright, what's up everybody? So I'm going to show you, this is kind of a way that I started doing my dialogue for games, and I just feel like it makes more sense and it's a little bit more organized than a lot of stuff I've seen, and it's really simple and easy for even a beginner to kind of understand for the most part. Let me move this out of the way. I hate having these down there. Alright, so let's get started. So the first thing that you're going to want to do, we're going to create an object. We're going to call this object textbox, and we're going to set up a couple of variables here. So first variable, we're going to just set some text to nothing, and then new text, and I'll show you what that is for in a second. Actually, I'm going to separate these, and we'll set some text speed. I'll set to 0.5, and then text position to 0. So that's just the first thing that we're going to do. Next, we want to set up, hold on, let me set up text writing variables. Okay. And then we want to set up our timeline variables. So we're going to set timeline running is equal to true, timeline speed is equal to 0, and timeline position is equal to 1. So the first position in our timeline. After we got all that set up, we want to we're going to add a key pressed on the space, and this is just going to kind of go through our dialogue in our timeline, and you'll see how all this is kind of working, but I'm just kind of doing some basic setup right now. Pretty much when you press space, it's going to go through your timeline to each position that you've got set for whatever dialogue you've got set in there. So we'll say timeline position is incremented plus timeline if our timeline position is greater than our timeline max moment, timeline index minus or plus 1. So like if it's greater than our max moment, I'm not really sure why you have to do the plus 1. It just, for some reason, the timelines are kind of weird with that. You would think just if it was over the max moment, then you would call this, but I don't know, it doesn't for some reason. And then, but if we are past that, then we want to destroy our text box. Pretty simple. Next thing we want to do is we want to increment our text where it like writes out. This is super simple. So all you need to do is you'll say text position is plus equal to text speed, and then you'll say new text is equal to string copy, and we'll do our text, which is the main text. We'll start at the first position, first the index, and then our count will be our text position. And then also we need to reset all of this on our space event. So we'll say text position is equal to 0, and new text is equal to nothing. Next, simple enough, we'll set up a couple little variables just so it looks a little nicer. We can set up the text width, and we're going to do string width for our new text, so our incrementing text, and string width just gets it in pixels how wide the string is with the font and everything. For our text height, string height, new text, and then we'll add a little margin in there just to make it kind of look nice, to have a little block around it. So we'll set draw set color, see white, draw a rectangle. We'll do x plus our margin, y plus our margin, x plus our text width plus our margin, and then y plus our text height plus our margin. And then now we don't want it to be an outline. And then after that, we'll do draw set color, see black, draw some text, and we're going to draw our text at our x, y, and it's going to be our new text. So pretty much that's all you really need for now for the text box. Is once you have all that set up, we're going to add a script real quick, and we're going to call this dialog text. And all this does, we'll add a little param in there, so when we write it out in a different script, it'll show what we need to put in here. So text, and then we're just literally going to set the text to argument 0. And that's pretty much all you do there. So now let's just add a timeline. We'll call this TL dialog test. Just add a moment, dialog text, and we'll say hello world. And then what's nice about using the timeline, this is the best part of using this for a dialogue system, is you can literally just keep adding these moments, and it's going to, that's basically your pages of your dialogue. But what's also nice about it is, one, it keeps it nice and organized, and you can, for instance, you can comment, put description, hello world. So when you're going back through later in your project and looking through, you could set all of these to actually read what the text is. You could even, so like for here, let's say dialogue text, let's create some fireworks. And what's nice about it is that a timeline, it's only a single moment, so it's only going to call once the first time that you call it. So you could do this for triggering events, sounds, all kinds of nice stuff, and it's just in a neat little, just a nice little timeline asset that Gamemaker provides. So let's do repeat 20, and then we'll do effect create above ef firework. We'll just do random room width, random room height, room height, and then we'll say random range, because this little effect create above, it's not the best thing, but for these purposes it works. But it's between 0 and 2 for small, medium, and large. And then we'll do choose, and we'll do C red, C yellow, and C orange. Get some nice firework colors. It is the 4th of July right now, so when I'm doing this. So with that going, we will go in here, we'll go ahead and we'll temporarily set our timeline index, because that's the best part, is now with every text box that you create, all you have to do is set the timeline index when you create it to whatever timeline you want. So we could do TL dialog test, and yeah, so let's go into our room. I'm going to rename this with F2 room test. We'll open this up. I always like to keep everything on one little side here. It just gives me more room to work with. What color am I feeling today? Well, it is America, so I guess red. We'll go with a nice red, softer red. Oof, that's a little much. Let's bring that down a little bit. Cool. Okay. Now if we put our text box in here, I gotta select the instances layer. Put our text box in here. Let's save that. Let's run it and see how she looks. Hello world. Let's create some fireworks. And then as you keep pressing, it goes away. It looked the reason that kind of looked weird is because I did plus. I meant to do minus our margin on the first X and Y. My bad. So now if you look at it, it looks a little nicer. So there's your basic, hello world, let's create some fireworks. And then you press space and it just instantly, because we're past the position, just destroys. Now, the next part is, and that's just the basic part. Now you could always loop this too. I could go in here and create another one. I could say dialog text, and I could say let's start it over, and then add one more moment, and then I could just literally instance create depth x y depth object text box, and it'll just loop basically forever, because every time it gets to that last frame, it's gonna, let's start it over. Let's create some firework. Yeah. I guess that's, why is that doing that? Well, you get the gist of it. That's not something that we want to really use anyway, but because I don't see really when you would want to loop a timeline like that. But anyway, so let's get to the branches part of it, because this is why the timeline's so nice to use, is for creating like easily branched dialogue. So we'll just need to create a couple variables here. So under here, we're going to create our branch variables. We're going to say branches, so the total number of branches. We're going to create one called branch text. 0 is equal to nothing, and then branch timeline 0 is equal to no one. So with that, we've got that going. Let's X out of this. We'll create a new object, and we call this object branches. And we'll come back to that one later. We need to add a little script here. We're going to call this dialog add branch, and we'll create another script called dialog create branches. So the first one's pretty simple. Let's add a param in here. It's going to be our branch text, and then parameter our branch timeline. So first we're going to say branch text branches, because our branch is set to 0, so our first branch is equal to argument 0, and then branch timeline branches is equal to argument 1, and then we're just going to add to our branches. So we're going to say branches is plus plus, so that way we've got branch 0 set, and then we're going to add to the total number of branches, and this just makes it easy, so you can create as many branch options as you want. Then in here, so this is what we're going to do to actually create the, oh, there's one more thing that I need to do. Okay, let's set up the variables real quick. Sorry, I'm getting a little ahead of myself. So in our branches object, we're going to have the same 3 variables, the first 3. So we're going to have branches, branch text equal to nothing, and then branch timeline 0 is equal to no one, just for now. Then we're going to also have a selected, so whichever branch we have that's selected, and then we need to have a text box x is equal to 0 and a text box y is equal to 0, and this will be good. This is what we'll need to have so that when we end our first dialog text box, this branch knows where to create the next one. You want to keep everything kind of independent from one another, just kind of creating themselves. You don't want everything to be controlled by one thing. So now when we create it, so we're going to call var branch is equal to instance create depth. We're going to call x, and then we're going to add, I don't know, let's put it for, well, let's do our string height of our text plus, I think our margin was 5, so we'll do that. That's just where it's going to create the dialogue underneath our, or where it's going to create the branches underneath our dialogue text. So it's called depth, and we're going to say object branches. Next thing we need to do is we need to just set everything with what we have. So we're going to say branch, so the instance object branches, we're going to say branch.branches is equal to branches. I'm saying branch a lot, it's starting to sound weird. Next we need to use a for loop, so we're going to say var b is equal to 0, b is less than branches, b is plus plus, and then we'll set branches, or branch dot branch text b is equal to branch text b, and then branch dot branch timeline b is equal to branch timeline b. Oh, I didn't spell that right. Timeline b. There we go. Then we're going to set the text box x and y. So branch dot text box x is equal to x, and then branch dot text box y is equal to y. Perfect. So that's just going to create our branches. So now we can go in here. Let's do a key pressed, and we'll click, where's it at? Up. There we go. Key pressed up. We're gonna make our selected branch is minus minus. We'll do a key press down, selected is plus plus, and then we'll do our key press space. We'll leave that empty for just now, and then we're gonna also add an end step, because we want to clamp our selected so that way it's not too low. It doesn't go below 0 and above our total branches. So we'll say selected is equal to clamp selected 0 and then branches. And that's the branches minus 1, because we always have an empty branch, because we always add to it in this one right here. So you just want to keep that in mind. Now when we're doing the for loops, you're just doing less than the total number of branches. So you won't have to do the minus. This is the only place you'll have to do the minus 1. So now we got that going. Let's draw our branches. So we're going to use that for loop again. We're going to say var b is equal to 0. B is less than branches. B is plus plus. Okay. I like to just so that way you can kind of see it. We'll say if selected is equal to b, do double equal. You always want to do double equals if you're comparing. Just as a side tip, never just do the 1. You only do the 1 equal if you're setting something, but you always want to do the 2 if you're comparing it. So if selected is equal to b, then we're going to draw set color to see red. Otherwise else, we're going to set our color to white. Color C white. Cool. Now all we have to do is just draw our text. So we're going to draw text. We're going to draw it our X position, and then here, let's see. So we'll do Y plus our margin, and then we will add also the string height for our branch text B plus 5 also. And then you're going to take all of this, put it in another little parentheses there, and then we're going to, actually you don't really need to put it in another parentheses. We're just going to multiply that by our b, and that way it'll, so for instance, if we're on the first one, then it's just going to be y plus 5 plus the string height, but times b. So if b is 0, then this is going to be 0, so it's just going to be at y plus 5. If it's 1, then I think the default font's like 16 pixels high, something like that. So it'll be y plus 5 plus 16, because b times 1 string height, and then if b is 2, etc., etc. So that way you get a little list that goes down. And then here we'll just put our branch text b. Cool. Alright. Make sure I don't have any. Oh, I got an error. Do I have a. Okay, I do need to do another one of these. Bloop. There we go. That way, I just like to keep everything separated with parentheses. It just keeps it a little bit more organized for me. Okay, now the next thing that we want to do is in our space. So we're going to say, when we click space, when we select a branch, if you remember our text box, it's going to automatically destroy itself at the end. So we don't have to worry about getting rid of our text box. We just worrying about, once we've selected the option, what we're going to do. So we're going to say if our branch timeline selected, so if the branch timeline of our selected one, whichever one we have selected, is not equal to no one. So if it's not an empty, because you can always just set it to empty and then nothing will happen. But if it isn't empty, then we want to create, we'll see, var text box, and that'll be instance create depth, and we'll say our text box X, text box Y, depth, just because I'm just doing this for simplicity's sake. You can use layers on all of this. I'm just doing this for, you know, speed and simplicity. And then we're going to create our object text box. Bam. And this is where you're recreating the new text box with the new dialogue and the new timeline going. So you're going to say textbox.timeline. Timeline index, sorry, is equal to branch timeline selected. Bam. The only other thing we have to do after that is we have to get rid of our branches. So we'll just say instance destroy. Bam. And there we go. We're done. Pretty simple. That's all the system you need to set up. And the best part is now we can now that we've got our functions and everything, we can just go from there. So let's create a branch. We'll say TL dialog branch. Let's call this branch 1 because we'll create a couple of branches just as a test and just show you how nice the system is when it works. So let's add, I got the timeline. Let's go back to our first timeline. Let's add one, and we'll say dialog text. Let's see a couple of branches. I'm actually going to duplicate this branch 1, and we'll create a branch 2, and we'll come back to those in a second. So best part is here, all you have to do is dialog, add branch. Our branch text is going to be branch 1, and you could put anything here. You know, if you were asking a question, you know, with a character asking another character question, you wanted multiple options, you know, you could put whatever text you want here. TL dialog branch 1. So this is going to, if you select this one, it's going to take you to this timeline. And then we'll add also our second one, add branch 2, TL dialog branch 2. And then after that, the only thing you need to call is dialog create branches. And bam. So now we can go in here and we can say dialog text, hey, this is branch 1. And then let's see, let's add dialog text. I don't know, do you want to, let's just say click something, I don't know, click something, and we'll dialog branch, or dialog add branch, and we'll say start over, and that'll be our TL dialog test, dialog add branch, start over from beginning. Let's do that. Beginning. Beginning. There we go. Did I spell that right? I'm not very good at spelling, if you guys can't tell. I mean, clearly, dialogue's not even spelled right. This is just how it works in my brain, and it's just simple and quick, so it doesn't matter. I don't care about spelling. Spelling's overrated, as long as you know what I'm talking about. So let's do start from the beginning. We'll do branch 1, and then we'll do TL dialog branch 1, and then dialog add branch 2, TL dialog branch 2, and then we'll just add one that says that just does nothing. Add branch nothing, and then TL or none, no one. Cool. So that's our first branch. I'll just add a couple little things in here. Dialog text, yay. And then dialog text branches. And then dialog branch or add branch, start over. And then TL dialog test, dialog add branch, nothing, and then no one. Cool. Now all we have to do is let's just check it out. It should be working. Let's find out. Hopefully I got everything right on this. So hello world, let's create some fireworks. Let's see a couple of branches. If you press up and down, you can select a branch. So let's go to branch 1 because I had a bunch more stuff. Hey, this is branch 1. Click something. Oh, I'm an idiot. So this is important, is make sure you do the dialogue, create branches. You could probably put it in the automatic, like where you click space here on the text box. You could probably go ahead and put it in there, but you'd have to set up a variable of some kind that's like has branches or something like that. I didn't feel like doing all that, so you can probably work around with that and create to where it automatically creates your branches. I just have it like this. Plus it makes it a little easier too, you know, if you're testing some dialogue, you could just kind of no, and then you could just keep going and be like, yeah, actually I don't want that, I'll save that, maybe, you know, I don't know. Alright, now let's retry this now. This should be working fine. So hello world, let's create some fireworks. Branch 1. Hey, this is branch 1. Click something, and as you can see, you can keep going through. Start over from the beginning. Hello world, create some fireworks. Branch 1, yeah. Let's go to branch 2. Yay, branches. Start over, and let's go branch 1 again, and let's click nothing, and then as you see, it destroys. So that's pretty much it. Real basic, just a real simple way, and it just keeps everything nice and organized for you too. And what's the best part is, if you do want to trigger like for cutscenes or anything like that, you have a timeline that's completely working, and you can call scripts or whatever. You could expand it. I'm sure that there's tons of different ways that it could be expanded, but this is just kind of the way that makes sense to me in my brain to do dialogue. I know I've seen a lot of stuff online, like different tutorials and stuff, and it just gets kind of complicated especially if you had a big project. I feel like it would get really complicated. With this, all you literally have to call is, you know, if you had a character or something, all they would have to do is create object text box, set the timeline, you're good to go, you know, and then you could just pause the character if there's a text box existing. You could pause it, you know. It just makes more sense to me, and I feel like, at least from a beginner standpoint, this would have made a lot more sense to me when I was starting out if someone had told me how to do it this way. Instead, I had to, you know, try a bunch of different ways, and this has been the most efficient for me and the easiest way for me to understand. So thank you guys. I hope you like it. I hope it helps you guys out in any way. And cool, I guess I'll talk to y'all later. Peace.